Well, welcome back to Village Catholic Conversations. We're so excited that you chose to join us for a few minutes again for this conversation. My name is Art Bamert Jr., Catholic speaker, and I'm here with my friend, John Canuthia,
Yes.
fellow worker in the fields and the vineyards, Catholic speaker and life coach. We are going to continue. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode on prayer. A little bit about our prayer lives so how do you do prayer? So we had a great part 1 conversation, and we're going to continue that. But first, John, I think you can't do a talk about prayer without starting with some prayer, right? Would be a good thing. Yeah. Anyway, so why don't you start this episode off with a little prayer?
Yes. We invite our Blessed Mother in this conversation. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and there for our death. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Awesome. So, so John, the last part 1 of this episode, I shared a little bit about some of the things that that I personally do with prayer, and then my growing experience with spending time before the Eucharist and just silence. And so, why don't you share with us some of your prayer journeys and something that's special to you in particular that we were talking about before this episode?
Yeah, you know very well that when I'm speaking, I like bringing my mom in the conversation.
Right,
because
right.
my mom actually did help me understand prayer and how to pray when you're working on doing some of the things that we used to do, especially the house chores. So, and I mentioned about gratitude. That's one of my favorite things to do. And one of the things my mom taught me was that doing dishes really is a prayer moment for you. Doing dishes is an opportunity for you to, as the water is flowing or as you're rinsing, is also an opportunity to offer yourself up to get rinsed. So my mom taught me it's a gratitude moment and also like a cleansing moment, literally. But so from that moment, I was probably in the maybe 10th grade compared to the U.S. system.
Right.
And from that point on, I really started doing that practice of prayer. Like, what am I doing? Especially doing dishes. When I'm doing dishes, is a prayer moment for me.
Okay, so can we just hold on one second?
Yes,
Because I know a little bit about the story. Okay, so explain to our audience. So when you talk about doing dishes where you grew up, that might not really be the experience that I had growing up doing dishes. There's a little... He's making it sound like, but explain to our viewers here, you what doing dishes meant in your house.
Okay.
Because it's great.
Thank you. So, as probably some of you know, I'm from Kenya, and in Kenya, I always say that we are an agricultural country, and when you have an opportunity to put food on the table, it's always a blessing, and in our culture, it's a huge deal. It's a huge blessing. So when my mom would ask us to do dishes, and she would see us complaining, and mind you, family of 7 siblings and my mom and dad, so 9, and we would have dishes all over the place. So we wouldn't have like a specific place where you're putting dishes.
Right.
So everybody eats whatever they eat. So when you're doing dishes, first of all, is to go picking up all the dishes wherever you are. The second thing is, if you have water in the house, you are lucky because you just get the water. Sometimes you have to go fetch water 2-3 miles down the hill. You know what I'm saying? Like it's your duty to do dishes. But before you do the dishes, there are some back things that you have to do, and one of those is to fetch some water or pick the dishes.
This isn't a 10-minute little job.
This is not a 10-minute; it's a 2-hour job. All right. So if you had a bad day whereby there's no water and everybody is just ate and they left their plates or whatever they left them, you're gonna have a lot of work, and there's also a legitimate reason to complain because look, you're gonna have to go fetch water, then come do dishes, like you're doing two jobs. But my mom, in her own training, probably when she was growing up, she probably had better or worse than us, whatever word you want to phrase it.
Right.
But I think she installed into us that discipline, that it is not just cleaning. It's not just this work involved. And when you make it prayerful, when you make it a gratitude moment, you remember that there are people who don't have food. So what you're doing, you're intentionally saying, I thank you, Lord, because I had some food. There are other people who didn't have food. You may not be in a position to go give them food, but remember, God works in miracles. He will hear your prayer, and someone else out there will be touched, and they will give food to those people who don't have.
Right.
There are people who don't have water. I complain going 2 miles down the hill, get water. There are people who are walking miles and miles, 24 hours in search of water.
Right.
So you think you have it worse. There are people who have had it worse, they're having it worse. So my mom's message was very simple. You ate, you get some water, be thankful.
Right.
And to me that changed my whole life.
Right.
Like it's the outlook. And created a desire in me to be able to teach whatever I'm speaking now, and to teach my kids the same. Like, It's not just, you had food, you're full, now you're good. No. Take time.
Right.
Be grateful.
And we've talked about this before, but just being grateful even for the hard parts in our lives.
Yes.
It is really easy to be grateful for, thank you, God, like I won the lottery, or or a new car, or whatever. That prayer of gratitude for the failures in our lives and the times in which things didn't go well, because those form us too.
Yes, definitely. Those are I always say that's where the growth is. That's why Jesus Christ reminds you, I'm right here. Look at the right hand. I'm standing right here. So when you look at him, he reminds you that, look, in all your entire life, you learn to trust in me. I help you every time. Those hard moments, it's where the growth is. It's where you need to be more grateful. It's where you need to be God dependent. It's where you are experiencing, some people say it's where you're experiencing the temptation, or your faith is being tested.
Right.
Probably true, because even the best gold passes through fire. So those struggles, those hardships, those I don't knows, those moments that you're feeling lost, those times you cannot know what your life is about. When you commit yourself in gratitude and prayer, recognizing the things that you have. First of all, let me just say this. When I say gratitude, I first of all reflect on who I am, what God has made me to be. Before I even speak about what I have, who am I in God's eyes? I'm healthy. So I reflect on who. The being comes first. Then having comes next. And when I make that distinction for myself, then I'm able to be consciously, intentionally present in my gratitude prayer. It helps me not compare myself with other people. It helps me not to complain. It helps me to understand what really gratitude is all about.
So your gratitude prayer, John, just so our audience gets an idea of, is this an internal or external list of things you're grateful for, or is there a method in which you use to help you be grateful? Is there a form of prayer that you use that you turn into a prayer? So I'm presuming your gratitude is more of an attitude of prayer, right?
Yeah, it's an attitude.
It's an attitude of prayer.
An attitude.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
it's
right,
an attitude.
right.
And it could happen even when you're saying Our Father in heaven, because you get into that state of being thankful.
Right.
And when you get in that, so my process, just to answer your question, is on a Sunday I'm going for Mass, for example, and I know for me Mass is the ultimate place of thanksgiving.
Right.
So I'll do my conscience. I'll examine myself. I'll see, all right, God has created me to love Him wholly. So what are those things intrinsically I need to be grateful for?
Right.
That define me, who I am. So I'll write those down. As I said, I'm right. I got my books, and this is a new book I got. And I got so many books, and my wife tells me, and you can see here, these are little books I used to write in when I was in college or high school.
Wow.
Actually, yeah, it's college life and little life in high school.
Wow.
So these are some of the, I still have them with me.
Wow, that's great.
And I go through them sometimes to see what was, in that moment, what are those things that touched my life and I was grateful for.
Right.
And who are the friends? Because I know some people have heard me give this talk. Gratitude is just about saying, it's about doing, it's writing, it's mentioning things in specific. You know, this moment you specify the name of a person. You write their name down and say, what are you grateful for them? And my mom also told us, praying for a family in general is okay. But when you specify an individual, when I'm praying for my brothers, 4 of them and my 2 sisters, I go name by name.
Right.
Their name, and if they have told me their needs, I found that being that conscious, allows you to, because God already knows their needs, God already knows my needs, so it allows me to experience oneness with Him,
Right.
in that state of gratitude.
And I'm listening to you. I'm thinking that this prayer that's rooted in gratitude is also a very humble prayer, especially if you're expressing gratitude for other people or things,
Yes.
because then that turns it away from yourself
Yes,
to others,
it is. Yes,
which is really what's required of authentic love.
yes,
Is others.
Yes.
Is once again that responding to others with love, even people who are difficult.
yes.
I mean, and are we grateful for difficult people in our lives?
Yes, that's
I
totally.
mean, am I always grateful for difficult people? No, not in any way, shape, or form. But the striving to exhibit that gratitude, like having a grateful heart, because sometimes those, John, I'm just thinking, I'm like, these are opportunities of grace. So
Yes.
do you ever pray for humility or patience? Like, okay, so you know how God works,
Yes.
that He
Yes.
gives you an opportunity to be humble.
Yes.
And He gives you opportunities to be patient. Well, then, wouldn't you be grateful then for the person who is trying your patience and is an answer to your prayer, in essence, to practice patience? Okay?
That's very right.
And so, not that you're hoping that people are difficult with you, but I'm saying, like, it's amazing how God can use all of the brokenness that we are
Yes.
to help each other become holier people when we see with eyes that are gratitude. But all that is, see, I think sometimes I'll bet some of our listeners struggle with the idea that while prayer especially for Catholics, there's rote prayer. Like we have the Our Father, Hail Mary.
Yes.
There's devotions like the Rosary and the Divine Mercy Chaplet. But really, to respond to the Scripture, to pray always without ceasing.
Mm-hmm.
We all can't function throughout the day just praying the Rosary all day in our heads. You couldn't think. You couldn't do math. You couldn't do your job.
No.
But when your attitude, either gratitude and humility,
Yes.
then that really turns all of your stuff into a prayer.
Yes.
So then your
Yes.
whole life becomes a prayer.
It's a prayer. In fact, that was my ultimate statement I was going to make, and thank you for getting out for me. That the attitude, the intention is really what forms the foundation of how your life becomes a prayer.
Right.
Because if the attitude is that attitude of gratitude, humility, and all these virtues, then the way you reason, the way you think, the way you see things, the way you do things, then becomes rooted based on that foundation.
Right.
And you're responding with your whole being. This is why I say, not only do your mind become involved, but your entire being.
And then you become a witness to the gospel.
You become a witness
With your
to the gospel.
actions.
Yes, you become a witness to the gospel,
Right.
and that you get transformed. I see that. I ask you, hey, your life looks so good. What? And then you share your story with me.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, I want to know your Jesus.
Right. You seem really happy and together. Your life must be perfect. No, actually not. Here's all these bad things happening. Well, how is it that your attitude is you're grateful for things and you're joyful and I'm always struck, and this is like a total random thought, but it's not exactly. Have you ever noticed after a natural disaster, let's say I grew up in the Midwest, in tornado country, and the whole town is just destroyed by a tornado, and they're interviewing somebody, and they're just, I am so grateful that I'm good, my family is safe, and my friends are safe. That gratitude for the not complaining that your whole house was just destroyed by a tornado, but that I'm grateful for the blessings of this community who's supporting me, and that I'm always struck by that. Or even the tragedy of when someone loses a very close family member, and they're grateful for the time that they had with that family member, even though they may have been taken at a young age or early. You know why? And that's an attitude of gratitude. Ooh, that's snappy. Attitude of gratitude.
Attitude of gratitude. I always say gratitude takes you to a higher altitude.
That's good too. That's catchy.
It's catchy. You need to go. And when I'm listening to you saying this, I'm also thinking, because gratitude is about life.
Right.
Gratitude isn't about anything else.
Right.
It's about it's a living word. It's like love.
Right.
It gives you freedom from those things that we could get attached to. It gives you detachment. It gives you a sense of regardless of what happens, I am free, and God has given me this love or this community, and I'm grateful. You're grateful because your life is free from the things of the world,
right?
And I'm always encouraging people. The tragedies happen, and a lot of things happen. But one of the biggest tragedy that I think holds people back is failure to forgive others.
Yes.
And I think we cannot have gratitude is not complete until there's forgiveness. Right. Because I think for me, I struggled with this too, and I always say that I was bullied in high school. I was bullied. In the third grade, I was bullied. In high school, I was bullied. And it took a long time for me to forgive the folks that bullied me.
Right.
In fact, it is not until probably I was in college, after college, that I was able to completely let go, because I would always feel agitated. Right now, if I read the news and I see people bullying, those memories still come back.
Sure.
But it is not until I was able to forgive those people I experienced true transformation through gratitude.
Right.
Because forgiveness sets you free. Gratitude takes you to a higher altitude.
Right.
So,
and this is probably more for another episode, but also forgiveness of yourself.
Forgiveness of self too.
Yes. It's very difficult to forgive others when you have a hard time forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, we'll talk about. So for now, we're talking about gratitude.
Gratitude, John. I love the idea that you've just taken, prayer to a whole different place when you talk about it in the context of being grateful, and now that almost seems like that makes it a lot easier to pray without ceasing.
Yes.
Because if you're in a state of gratitude and you're living gratefully and prayerfully, it's harder to complain. It's harder to look at people and imply ill intent. There's a lot of that going on right now. People presume the worst about people's intentions and without being grateful for them or the gifts that they bring, along with some of their failings. So. But that's a fantastic attitude, John.
Yeah,
really.
it's and as you said, when you put it as an attitude, I think that changes us.
Right.
Prayer changes us.
Right.
Gratitude changes us. It's that attitude of increasingly, intentionally being conscious of appreciation of who you are, where you're going. And listen, I meet people who tell me they're stuck. They're stuck in their life in a particular state, whether it's work or family. And some of the conscious decision I always ask is, let's look at the things that make you, those things that could make you grateful. And if people are hesitating and scratching your head, I'm like, you better be grateful for your fingernails because you're able to scratch your hand. Scratch your head because I'm like,
right.
But it's an attitude that can change people's lives, and that's the attitude of prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think many people disconnect our spiritual growth in life with our like worldly habits, and it's almost like it's two different things.
Yeah.
Like the habits and the way in which I choose to live is different from my spiritual growth. And why am I not growing spiritually?
Yeah.
Well, because your life habits are not conducive to growing spiritually.
Yeah.
And if you're complaining all the time and it's a habit, it's difficult to be grateful.
Yeah.
Like to have an attitude of gratefulness, which then makes it difficult to pray or to connect with God or just see others' needs before yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say, for most people who like complaining, the priest made this joke a while ago that there are those people you see coming towards you and you turn the other way and you walk to the direction they are moving to, because you don't want to meet them, you just want to see them coming and then, you turn and then you just go to the wrong direction because you don't want to meet them because they will ruin your day. And in as much as we are doing evangelization, some people have just made a choice not to be grateful because it's a decision you make.
It is a decision.
And when you make it a decision and a choice, then it's a matter of practicing the habit, and it happens.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately what this all comes down to as we wrap up part 2 of our prayer episode is God gives us free will, and it is it is up to us to decide to make prayer. When we say make prayer part of our life, make our relationship with God a thing, because that's really what prayer is.
Yes.
It is part of our relationship with God,
Yes.
and not really an experience of God, but if you want to know who God is more, then God is ready to pour all of that onto you.
Yes.
But He's respecting our decision as to making prayer, making communication part of the thing.
Thank you for saying that, because it's about, are you going to talk to me? And I always say, I know we are running out of time here. If you have people who are your friends at some point and then the communication failed, then you're no longer friends.
You're no longer friends.
So, but those who have kept in touch, you feel good calling them all the time. Same with our God.
Right.
Why not today? Why not make a decision to spend 3 minutes, call upon His name, quietly or with your community or your family. Spend some time with Him and see how things will start changing for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, another great episode, I think.
Yeah.
I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
So.
This is the Village Catholic Conversation. And we are delighted that you have been with us, and we hope you have enjoyed and you'll take something out of it, and be grateful. The attitude of gratitude takes you to a higher altitude.
Look, to see how he just connected those two things together.
Village Catholic Conversation.
Genius.
My friend Art Behmat here and myself, John Kenodia, wishing you all the best.
And go out and start some of your own conversations.
Start your own conversation.